Hi there, folks. How are you doing? I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I'm offering this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, for the soul. And it's titled, quite simply, We Believe in Human Kindness. I remember an old Unitarian once telling me that the essence of her faith was to be found in the words of the hymn, We believe in human kindness. She said this was her faith, the faith that she was born into, the faith that she grew up with, and the faith that she's attempted to live by and hopefully will die with and by. We believe in human kindness, she said with a smile and a little twinkle in her eye. Now, for some folk, I guess this probably sounds a little bit folksy, really. That's not really, it doesn't have any real depth or weight or intellectual rigour. In fact, there are those, no doubt, in the world who would deride such feelings. I've heard folk mocked for their belief in such things. I've heard others claim that there's not much of a foundation to really build your faith on in that. The more cynical, perhaps more critical, may also claim that there is no such thing as human kindness. I remember Rutger Bregman's book, Humankind, A Hopeful History, when that was derided in some quarters when it was published 2 years ago. Well, I, for one, found it deeply inspirational. It certainly helped me get through those early days of the lockdown. And by the way, Bregman in his book isn't suggesting that this is all that human beings are, or all that human beings are capable of being. His book, though, is just a critique of the view that we are selfish and brutal by nature. So he believes in human kindness too. He wrote a huge, wonderful book about it. And he looked through the history of humanity. But it seems that human beings don't necessarily believe in it a lot of the time. I have experienced a great deal of kindness in recent weeks, and a lovely example happened just the other day, actually. A friend came round to see me with a load of plants. He'd asked me a few weeks before if I would like some sunflowers in my garden, as he'd been cultivating them from quite some time. I said, oh yes, that would be lovely. Over the last 2 years, he has developed a love for gardening, something that he seemingly has inherited from his dad. Now, his dad died from COVID very, very early in the pandemic. And due to the restrictions at the time, he decided that he would conduct a simple ceremony around the grave for the immediate family, and while videoing it and sending it to some of the family who were in Zambia, I think, originally. I helped him prepare the service from a distance over Zoom, etc. at the time. And so he told me that the plants were a thank you for this. He's thanked me many times, to be honest, but this just seemed like something he could do, he wanted to do. Now, as he came round and began planting the sunflowers, and actually a load of other stuff, as it turns out, came round again a few days later, but on that day, as he was planting them, he looked up to me and said that this day was the second anniversary of his dad's death. It was lovely to talk and share in this simple act of kindness with him, a kindness that had grown from a terrible tragedy in his life. People have shown me so much kindness in recent weeks. I've expressed a few personal struggles, and I cannot begin to tell you how much loving support I have received, how much human kindness. So yes, I believe in human kindness too. I think that the problem is that we just don't give people enough opportunity to show it often enough. Maybe I don't. Well, I should. We all should. Let them show what's in their hearts. Now, the cynics will say that those who believe in human kindness are just being deluded. They say, look at the world. It's not filled with kindness at all. And certainly there is much to be distressed about. There is much that goes against this. We see the horrors of the daily news cycle. But is that how we all live our lives most of the time? Is that how we are in our daily interactions? It's not what I observe. It's not what I see. I don't think it is. And yet, kindness is one of those words that's often scoffed at. How often are the so-called do-gooders doing good? How often are they seen as deluded, derided? How often are they derided? How often are they seen as foolish or you can't trust their motives? How often do people say that? Well, I for one think the cynics are wrong. I for one don't think it needs to be like this. We do not have to live in the cynic's nightmare. Just look around you, look carefully, pay attention with an open heart, and you will become aware of kindness all around you. Our task, I believe, is to be both open to it and to live from it, to live in the giving and receiving of it, as I did with my friend as he was planting those sunflowers. Beautiful. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. Words from the Metta Sutta from the Buddhist tradition. I'm sure the cynics will say I'm just a dreamer, Bregman's just a dreamer, but I know I'm not the only one. The cynics will say that I'm a fool. Again, I'm not the only one. I invite you to come and be a fool like us, fools like us. I invite you to be a fool like me, a holy fool. You know, I've always been touched overwhelmed actually at times by the capacity of the human heart to turn suffering into generosity of spirit. My friend's growing love for gardening and his desire to share his produce being a recent beautiful example of this. I have so often seen deeply wounded people transform their suffering into generosity as they themselves have become the wounded healer, helping fellow sufferers as they themselves have limped along, showing their scars, carrying their wounds, helping their fellow sufferers. They have not grown bitter by their wounds. They have not grown bitter due to the loss and the suffering. They have not passed on their pain, not always. No, instead they have transformed the suffering into acts of love. It's wonderful to bear witness to this alchemy of the human heart. Their sufferings have helped them to understand the sufferings of others, and they have transformed their suffering into compassion. It's a beautiful thing to witness. My friend's grief, all those plants that he's been growing, his grief has transformed into this wonderful gift that he's passing on from his dad. His dad's love is living on through him. Beautiful. Now, a wonderful example of suffering transformed in poetic form is the poem Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye. Parker J. Palmer has said of this poem, it's a gritty, sometimes grim poem about a virtue we too often romanticize. But in a world that can be as heedless and heartless as ours, kindness must grow from deep inner roots. It is to stand strong and to be sustained, as the poet herself says. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. Parker Palmer continues, as I read this poem, I give thanks for all the wounded healers I know, and I ask myself what I might do today to allow suffering, my own and others, to open my heart up instead of shutting it down. Beautiful. Well, here's the poem, Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And that poem was inspired by real life events it happened on her honeymoon, I think I recall actually, that there'd been this terrible event and the Indian who'd been killed and she'd been left alone and kindness was shown to her. Beautiful. Yes, there is much suffering, but there is loving kindness too. Let's not be blind to it. How we respond to the things that happen to us and to those we love, it really matters, you know. Do we respond from fear or do we respond with, by and through kindness? Because it matters, you know, it really does. You know, I've often heard it said that love makes the world go round. But one of my great heroes, Forrest Church, begged to differ, you know. He claimed that love doesn't make the world go round, kindness does. Plus, it's a pure virtue. When you're kind to a taxi driver or checkout person, you expect nothing in return. And yet, if you make kindness a habit, others may find it contagious. My friend did, with his plants and his sunflowers. Nice one, Rob. Thank you, mate. Church saw kindness as the purest virtue and the purest form of love, which he equated with agape love, self-giving love. This is the love spoken of in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, when he states those immortal words. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And kindness is at the core of the great religious traditions. Now, of course, in our ever-increasing secular age, this is just another reason to reject kindness. I had a conversation not so long ago with someone that I've known all their life and virtually all of mine, apart from the first part, talking about this very subject, and their response was interesting. They said, when I was talking about kindness, the subject, and my belief about it, said, that sounds a bit religious. And I'm thinking, do you know what? They're right, you know, it does sound a bit religious. I'd say it's a bit more than just a bit religious, actually. Kindness is how to be truly religious, I would say. It's religion in its most basic and simplest form. It's real religion, actually. And that's no doubt why the lifetime Unitarian that I mentioned at the beginning of this devotion, why they said that we believe in human kindness. But I think my relative was suggesting that the fact it sounded religious was not a virtue at all. Something not a good thing at all. I think, who knows? I don't know for certain. And I'm not going to press. Kindness is the purest virtue, and yet it is one that we seem to want to forget about. To me, it's religion in its most basic and simplest form, as the other hymn goes. To worship rightly is to love each other. Each smile a hymn, each kindly deed a prayer. Each smile a hymn, each kindly deed a prayer. To worship rightly is to love each other. Each smile a hymn, each kindly deed a prayer. That's religion in its most simple form. We believe in human kindness. Kindness is a power. It truly is an energy, and it can be a transformative one. It can spread and take over and can begin to bring about that kingdom of love right here, right now. It can create the dominion of kindness. It begins right here, right now. Right now in our simple acts, our words and our deeds. But it does it quietly. It does it humbly. It does not shout. It does not boast. It is the purest virtue. Every day is a day when we can bear witness to a power greater than ourselves. We do this when we practice loving kindness, when we love one another, when we are glad to see each other, when we are playful with one another, when we are light-hearted, when we can laugh at ourselves, when we live with exuberance and enthusiasm, when we grow from dust and become truly animated and we live our lives. When we do this, we recognize the divine in one another. We pay homage to that. When we do this, we recognize the divine in each other, and we see it in our own reflection. We see it in our own eyes, in the little doll, in the pupil of our own eyes, when we see our own selves reflected back at us, as when we see ourselves in one another's eyes. You can see yourself. The pupil of your eye reflects you of the person's eye. When you look into someone's eyes, you see yourself truly, your tiny little doll. Which is apparently what pupil means. I recently discovered. We see ourselves looking back at us through one another's eyes. How can we not love what we see? We don't need to seek God, for God is already dwelling among us in each of our hearts, deep down in the core of our being. Please believe that. But we do need to bring the power to life. We need to know God's blessings in our interactions with one another, and we do so when we bless one another with loving kindness, through love, through laughter, through joy, through giving. Because in giving we truly receive. The way we look at one another face to face has the power to make God's presence known here on earth, right here, right now. This is the kingdom of love. This is the dominion of kindness. That's what the kingdom of love is, the dominion of kindness. It begins in our hearts, in our lives. It begins with a belief in humankind, in human kindness. It begins by worshipping rightly. And to worship rightly is to simply love each other. Each smile a hymn, each kindly deed a prayer. I believe it is our task to bring the kingdom of love, the dominion of kindness to life right here, right now. In so doing, we allow God to incarnate through our lives. And it begins in that purest form of religion, the purest virtue, by simple human kindness, by believing in humankind. It's shown in our love for one another. It's shown in our joy, our laughter, our playfulness, and our pain and our suffering too, that we walk side by side with one another. In our love for life, in our love for one another, in seeing each other as we look into the pupil of each other's eyes, or looking into seeing ourselves in our own reflection. You see the divine come to life through human form in one another. Amen. So this devotion's been about kindness, and with this in mind, I thought I'd invite us actually to share together a kind of adaptation. It's an adaptation really of coming from the Buddhist tradition, the loving kindness meditation, but this is an adaptation, so it's not purely Buddhist. And so I apologize for any true Buddhists. I'm not a Buddhist, but aspects of Buddhism speak to me. So this is an adaptation of the loving kindness meditation. I invite us to still our thoughts, to quieten our minds, to connect to our bodies, to our breathing, to our breath, to that breath that connects us to all life. Nothing is separate from the breath of life. Let's be still and silent together. If you are comfortable closing your eyes, you may close them now. But if you prefer to keep your eyes open, as in the Tibetan tradition, keep your eyes open. Watch. Look into the pupils of my eyes, if you like, if you prefer. Allow your attention to turn within yourself at your own pace. Take a deep, full breath. Then slowly release it. Now take another full breath, noticing how your body opens to receive the gift of breath. And again, exhale at your own pace, allowing the tension to leave your body. Notice any thoughts or any concerns that you bring with you into this time, into this space. Notice thoughts and concerns. Let those thoughts and concerns go. There's a persistent, a pressing concern. Just take a moment to acknowledge the concern and gently let the concern go. Allow yourself to come fully into this time and into this space that we share together. Be here now. Keep breathing in, filling your lungs, and slowly breathing out. Now slowly say these words to yourself. May I be filled with loving kindness. Keep breathing in and breathing out slowly. Watch your breathing as you allow the in-breath to fill every cell of your body with this intent. May I be filled with loving kindness. And with your next inhalation, say to yourself, may I be well. May I be well. Filling your lungs. Let your body fill with a sense of well-being. And with your next inhalation, may you say, may I be at peace and at ease. May I be at peace and at ease. Breathe in the feeling of peacefulness, exhaling any tension. And then quietly affirm, may I be well. May I be well. Open your heart and your mind to someone who might be helped with these affirmations. Perhaps someone you know, or it could be a stranger. Someone who needs this affirmation right now. Hold them in your heart and in your mind. Imagine yourself turning toward this person, speaking from your heart, and say these words. May you be filled with loving kindness. Imagine this person receiving this blessing and say, may you be well. Keep drawing in the breath, filling your lungs, filling your body with this breath of love, and slowly exhaling. And again, may you be at peace and ease. May you be happy. Now bring to mind some with whom you have had difficulty. It might be a family member with whom you have been angry, or a friendship you're struggling with. Imagine yourself turning to this person and saying, may you be filled with loving kindness. And from your heart, may you be well. Allow them to receive, to take in these words and say, may you be at peace and ease. And finally, may you be happy. Pay attention to your body, to your thoughts, to your heart, to your feelings. Take this beautiful moment and rest in gratitude for all whom you are connected, to all that you are connected to, both those you know, those that you may never know, physically at least, but are connected by the breath of life. And finally, take one more deep breath, thanking yourself for the courage to send thoughts of well-being to all, including yourself. And now let's just share a few moments of precious silence, bringing the breath of life, inhaling and exhaling this beautiful breath of life. Amen. May you be well. I'm going to end this devotion with some final words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves fully to life, to love and to life. So as we return to our lives, let's do so in the spirit of light, in the spirit of love. Let this moment be a new beginning. May we become a new beginning. May the spirit of love open us to deep understanding and connection. And may this begin through simple acts of human kindness. May it begin with our love for ourselves, for one another, for life, for God. And may we carry this loving kindness with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Let's go in love and in peace. Amen.